Okay, so here we are. This is the last section of Module 6. And in this one, we're going to talk about negative responses. So I know that, we kind of prepared you for some things to expect and what to say and how to interact with people, but I cannot tell you that their reaction will be all rainbows and unicorns. You're never going to be able to control how other people react to what you're saying or what you're requesting or asking for. So there will be times when the negative responses come up. And I think in knowing that, it makes it also easier. Like if you can expect that this might be something that happens, then you can prepare a little bit to handle what might be coming up. So the wheels could fall off, but that is okay. It's all right. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. So the slides in this section are going to cover basically two of probably the most common negative reactions that you might see. There's all kinds of options and things that might come up, but these two I think are probably ones you'll see most often. So what they are is confusion and anger. So let's go forward. We'll start just talking a little bit about confusion. So a question they might ask is, where is this coming from? Because again, whatever you're requesting might be coming from nowhere. They might have no idea that you've been thinking about what you have been. And this might seem totally out of left field, even though it's been on your mind for a really long time, right? So this could be their question coming to you, and you could respond with something like this, right? This is an example of, I can understand why you feel confused. I know that this must seem new. Talking about it's new for me too, but the thoughts have been going on for a long time. Or again, you can mention how important it is to you that they hear you out on this. But it's important, I think, in this response to acknowledge first that they have feelings in this too. Acknowledge their feelings, validate that, yeah, I get it. I can see why you'd be confused. It makes sense, right? And understand that they, in their emotions and in their feelings, want to be seen just as much as you do. So don't, it's not a bad thing if they come at you confused. If they have that kind of reaction, it doesn't mean you have to suddenly defend yourself or get angry or upset about it. Just acknowledge that, yeah, it would make sense that this is confusing, but hang in there with me and please hear me out, right? So confusion is fairly simple to deal with because you can kind of clear that up easily. Anger, it has a bit more of a complex thing you have to pay attention to. So a couple things that you want to consider about anger, if it comes up, is that the level of anger that you see displayed from the other person should be considered before you actually move forward with the conversation. It is really, really tough to have a clear and open conversation with anger present in the room with you, because anger tends to have a lot of other emotions that are underneath it. And there's just a lot of like convoluted things that can be happening in both of your brains if anger is there, right? So if you feel like maybe this is something that it's just a low level of anger that you can still work through, then by all means, still move forward with the conversation and give it your best try. But if it's a very high level of anger, then you may just find it best to remove yourself or to take a pause, right? But either way, with anger, you have to understand that it's not about you. Whatever they are mad about, it is something that has been activated inside them and it's about them. So there could be, like I said, a myriad of different emotions underneath the anger. So they could feel maybe threatened. If something that you're requesting is going to change their world at all, they might feel a little bit threatened by that. Some people don't like change as much as others. They might feel insecure. You might be bringing up something that they're already insecure about, and now you're just bringing it to light again. They could be embarrassed. They could feel called out or unsafe in this because they're just not used to this kind of conversation. So understand that that's the case. It is just about them. Anger is an umbrella emotion is what I call it. So there's usually a lot of stuff underneath there. So again, if it's low level and you feel like you want to flesh this out with them, you can give that a try and ask them how they're feeling. But sometimes you might be able to, just remove yourself for the moment until things calm down. So understand this too, is that their pain has been called up. So whatever is getting activated or what's coming up is because of a painful something that's going on underneath the surface, right? And it's that pain, it's that part of the what Eckhart Tolle calls the pain body. And it's kind of like the ego and all of that as well. But that's what you're communicating with. You're not communicating with this person in a fully loving circumstance at this point. You're communicating with a different side of them that's trying to protect themselves, right? Their whole logic center has now been disengaged, and you're not really talking with a clear mind. So absolutely keep that in mind. And like I've been saying, if it's too much, you can let them know that you won't talk again until they're calm, that you don't feel right about having this conversation with this type of emotion, and that you would maybe like to try again later, or ask them to calm down in the moment. Sometimes, like I said, depending on the level, it might be easier than others, right? So always, 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 though, keep your safety in mind first. So if you find that if the anger is really, really elevated, and it's a possibility that your safety has been compromised, or something might happen that is not going to be good for you, then do whatever you need to do to ensure your safety. You don't have to keep pushing with this conversation just because you said you would. It's okay to take a pause, take a step back, leave the room, leave the environment, do whatever you need to do. And if you feel you need to come back to it later, you can, or it might be just a sign that maybe this conversation isn't even worth happening. And there's, perhaps some boundaries that will never be fixed here in this circumstance, but that's going to have to be up to you to decide in this moment. So if you do feel safe, if the anger is minor and manageable, and you can, be a calm force for them to sort of center themselves, and you want to move forward with this, then you can acknowledge their feelings again, right? And let them be seen. So, saying, I see that you're upset, and that's okay. Like, they don't have to stop being upset. It's all right that they have some feelings that are coming up, and that's all right. And then just asking, I'm hoping you can still hear me out so we can resolve this for the both of us, right? And don't be accusatory. And, sometimes it might come up with I knew you were going to act like this, or I knew you would say that, or I knew you would bring this up, and going in that more accusatory tone, but that's not going to help the conversation move forward in a healthy way. So try to speak with curiosity and understand again that they have a full set of complex thoughts and emotions. So ask them what they're feeling, right? And what are they afraid of? And they might tell you they're not afraid of anything, right? Because that's sometimes the ego and the pain body will come up with this too, to think that there are no fears and this is all a strong thing. But that's where negative emotions typically come from, is fear, uncertainty, a lack of control, things like that. So just, feel free to be a place for them to start talking as well. You opening up about yourself may help them open up about themselves, which will ultimately, at the end of the day, it will help the conversation for everyone. So some additional thoughts as well. A negative reaction from them, whether it's confusion or anger or whatever it might be, does not mean that you're wrong. This isn't a signal or a sign that you've made the wrong choice, or that what you're trying to say or what you're trying to ask for is wrong in any way. So don't let this be an influence to you to tell you that you shouldn't do this again and you shouldn't ask for it again. And they might not be willing to do what you need them to do, but ultimately that is their choice. Again, you cannot control them or their reactions or what they decide to do. You can only decide what's right for you. So if they aren't willing to do what you need, and it was really, really important to you, and there is no compromise, then you might need to move forward without them. You might need to do whatever it is anyway, right? Even if they're not coming along with you, or you may need to leave them behind. And this can be a really tough reality that is a challenge to face sometimes, but ultimately you have to understand that you have to do what's best for you. And maybe there's a circumstance where you can't get away from them so much, like you're still around them every day, but just don't engage with them as much anymore. Or, keep kind of what you need, or that kind of thing. Just keep moving forward with what you need to do, but don't worry about so much what they are saying and trying to tell you and influencing you in the way that is negative. You got to try to block that stuff out if you have to be around them. So yeah, and then a negative response might also indicate that they have unexpressed or unmet needs. We were kind of talking about that, right? So you can encourage them to explore what they want as well. So maybe they might feel a little bit envious that you're asking for something and they're like, well, it's not fair. Like you're asking for this and I have all these things that I want. So why should you have it if I can't? Well, maybe they can. Maybe you can compromise. Maybe there is a way that you can help them open up to decide to set their own boundaries as well and get what they want out of life, right? We're all here to try to find enjoyment and happiness out of this life. So do what you can to help them out if you feel safe to do so. And this can be an awesome relationship builder as well. Okay, so the guide available in this section is not a worksheet so much as just a tough conversations guide of things maybe before you're about to have a conversation to sort of review and remember the things to pay attention to, what to look out for, and how to approach it, and be aware of what's happening in the conversation as it's happening. And then, of course, come into the community. This one might have some extra strong emotions or resistance or things coming up. So come inside the group and ask for support. We are absolutely here for you, right? You are moving on next to the next module, the next and final module. And at this point, you might just want to take some extra time to get a little bit more practice under your belt before moving forward. The next videos are kind of high level topics. It's about high level boundary setting, and it might be just a little bit further advanced than what you have learned so far. So you might want to just, try some things out, see how you feel, get some of these new things into practice before you move on to the last one. But if not, you can always watch the videos just to see what the content is, but then come back and watch them later once you feel like, you've understood some more of these initial concepts and that kind of stuff. But whatever way you decide to do it is fine with me. And whenever you are ready, I will see you in the next module.